I would like to call to order the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District for January 17th, 2018. Can I get members present?
Shaquille Ali.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Rebecca Douglas.
Here.
Clayton Koo.
Here. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by students at Margaret Pauline Brown Elementary School.
Stand up. Stand. Can you put your right hand on your head? Right hand on your head. And pledge. Now pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board members will now review the board meeting guidelines and report how well they adhere to the meeting guidelines at the end of the meeting. Next item, approval of the agenda. I want to note that item 8E on the agenda has been tabled to a future meeting. Item 8E.
8E.
Yeah, it's a San Mateo County update by Supervisor David Canepa.
Oh, okay.
So we take that one?
Yes.
Right. So I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item, item 6A, special presentations, Daly City Mayor's 2017 Youth of the Year Awards.
I can provide a brief introduction. In December, we had two of our students in our school district that were honored by outgoing Mayor, Daly City Mayor Glenn Sylvester. And he received some nominations and he made his selection. And we have them both here today. We have Mustafa Abazuria, is that close enough? And then we have Miss Janelle, I forget the last name, Farrar. Okay, so if you would come forward, that'd be great. The board would just like to address you or speak to you and maybe ask you some questions. Mr. Koo?
Sure. So Mustafa Abazaria, did you want to let us just kind of give us an overview about what you've been doing in the school districts and just kind of a little bit more about yourself?
You can stand right here so that the microphone is right.
So currently I'm in Fernando Rivera's student government class, and we do like a lot of fundraisers, and we also raised $400 for a program like Undies for Everyone. So some children, I'm not sure, I think it was Puerto Rico, like they didn't have clothes after the hurricane, and then Allstate matched that, what we raised. And I also help out at Thomas Edison twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And
That's good.
kind of on the spot.
No, that's step number one of being a good leader, is thinking on your feet. You do quite a bit with your community service, right, at school, and leading your lunchtime activities. Tell us about one or two of the lunchtime activities you've especially liked.
Well, intramurals, it's each month there's a different activity during lunch, and sometimes I help out with those. And coming up is No One Eats Alone Day, which the whole student government class is helping out with.
Cool. Great.
Thank
Well,
you.
We're really proud of you and the attention you're getting and the awards. Keep up the good work because you're going to be a great leader. And the more that you do for others, the better citizen you become. Thank you so much for what you do. And I'm sure your mom's proud of you.
I'd also like to say thanks and keep up the great work. And we've seen your mom here several times now, so you know that your siblings have received awards in this building as well. So I want to say congratulations to your mom as well, and keep up the good work.
And I would say the same, and I'm going to come and give you a certificate from the board. You recognize your achievement and recognize your recognition. So congratulations.
I can't believe it.
Our other 2017 Youth of the Year was Janelle Ferraro. Janelle?
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Janelle Ferraro. I'm 12 years old and I go to the middle school Thomas R. Pollicita. And currently right now what I've been doing with my singing is that I've been singing every week on Thursday. And for Jiu-Jitsu I train on Tuesdays, or actually I train on Mondays and Wednesdays. So that's what's been going on right now.
Okay.
Remember to any comments?
Well, once again, congratulations on your hard work and everything, excuse me, that you're doing. And I'm glad to hear that you're very well-rounded, that you're singing and you're doing martial arts. And I know people in jiu-jitsu train hard. That's a big part of jiu-jitsu. So I'm sure you do everything to the fullest that you're doing. So keep up the great work.
Well, congratulations, and I think I heard you singing at the Pollicita School, and your voice is amazing. Keep that talent going, and let us know if you're going to be singing at the Giants game. Because I will get a ticket.
Put it out there, yeah.
But thank you so much for participating and for spending lots of time. I can't see you. Lieutenant, I just wanted to say keep up all that you're doing. Aside from having your talent and everything that you do, you have so much charisma in your smile, and you feel like you really enjoy everything you're doing, and that's all of it. It's not like you're being forced to do it. You're doing it because it's here. Thank you so much.
And I will also offer congratulations and encouragement to continue with the good work and engaging fully in whatever you're doing at a time.
Congratulations as well, too, and keep up the great work as well.
I get to do it.
And we also have a certificate for you as well, too.
So, this is a certificate acknowledging your achievement as Daly City Mayor's 2017 Youth of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you again, and let's give Mustafa and Janelle another round of applause.
I just wanted to say thanks to, he's not here, but to the former mayor, Glenn Sylvester, for recognizing our students in this way. And also congratulations to Janelle's parents, and keep up the good work.
Good point.
Thank you. Next item is item 6B, the Latino Film Institute Youth Cinema Project and Margaret Pauline Brown Elementary School. MP Brown staff and students will share on their partnership with Youth Cinema Project and activities in preparation for the first annual end of the year industry screenings.
Yeah.
to see that. Good evening, distinguished board and administration. First and foremost, on behalf of MP Brown in the 4th grade, we'd like to thank you for bringing this project and selecting MP Brown to participate in it. It's been quite a learning experience, and you will see some of that learning tonight. Unfortunately, both of our film mentors are out sick. They had planned on being here this evening. And Mrs. Coeli, the 4th grade teacher, her daughter is at piano lessons right now, so she may be scooting in a few minutes, and hopefully she can make it by the end. But we're excited to share with you what our students have been doing. The film project has brought a measure of teamwork, the art of storytelling through film production. And the first video we're going to show you are the 4 student pitches that became the production companies. And then once we show you the pitches, the students from 2 of the production companies will come up and explain their roles and responsibilities and what they've learned so far. So we'll go ahead and start with the pitches.
Pitch Sam and a math test. Take 3. Action. My story is called Sam and the Math Test. It's about a boy named Sam who is bad at math. In the beginning, Sam fails his math test. When he gets home, he gets inspiration from his snack. My story is for people who need inspiration on things that they are stuck on, and tells people that inspiration can come from anywhere.
Speeding.
Slate. Ready.
Go ahead.
Pitch Carrie in the Forest. Take 3. Action.
Hi, my name is Giselle, and I'm the director and writer of Carrie in the Forest. The story is about a girl who gets lost in the forest while trying to look for her maid. The moral of the story is to not lose hope when you think it's all lost. I think people who enjoy drama and action would like this story.
Pitch for Napt. Take 1. Action. Napt is about a teenager named Marcus Hall and his mission to find his kidnapped mom. Napt is an action movie. If you like action, you should watch it. Can you see them? Yes. Pitch a soccer story. Take 1. Action.
Hi, my name is Kendall, and I am the writer of a soccer story. A soccer story is a story about a girl named Chloe who wants to play soccer, but a boy named Evan is bullying her when Chloe wants to play soccer. I think my classmates should pick my film because you can see how Chloe stands up for herself and talks about bullying, which a lot of people are facing. Thank you.
So at our red carpet screening, you will see the final film for each one of those stories. The students did all of the filming and sound for those. This is part of their practice for filming. And now we'll have them come up and talk about their roles and responsibilities. Somebody first.
My name is Allison, and I'm the producer in the film A Soccer Story. My responsibility is to keep people in task and to pay attention. My job is important to the film, so if people pay attention, they could do things correctly instead of leaving their place to go ask the director what to do and messing up the film. I appreciate Ms. Nicole and Mr. Joy staying with us a long time. Thank you and have a nice rest of the day.
Hi, my name is Emiliano. My production role is boom operator and sound. For sound, I have to hold a stick with a mic on it so I can record our films this is important because there won't be sound and our phones won't be that interesting. Thank you for this project because this is fun and I learned that sound is an important job and teamwork is important too.
Good evening, President and Board of Trustees. I'd like to thank you for giving me and my class this opportunity for our project, filmmaking. We have learned so much throughout our time in filmmaking, and we've built bonds with our teachers and each other. It has helped me express myself in different ways in art. I've always been shy and timid, but this project has allowed me to be more confident. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.
My name is Damian Randall, and my film is Carrie in the Forest. I am the grip. That means I'm responsible for the lights. I have to get the lights set up. I have to be respectful that the lights I have. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.
Good.
Very good.
We look forward to our screening, and our red carpet screening in May. And to have them stand up and feel free to ask them any questions about filming. We've learned all things about angles, and so we are directly applying geometry to this. So our real world is invaded our classroom.
Thank you. Board members, any comments, questions?
All right. First of all, excuse me, I appreciate you coming tonight and showing us the great work that you've all been doing. I'm really excited to see this. This is a program that we saw when we went to a school board conference, and we were very impressed with what we saw. And Ms. Brizuela took it upon herself to reach out. Actually, they reached out to you, right?
Yeah.
The Latino Film Institute. And we thought it was really important to get this program here, so a bunch of us actually went down to LA to see the students in action. And so now we have it here. So I'm very glad to see that you all are working on this project. And I just wanted to know what lessons have you learned besides the technical skills, but what have you learned by being in this project? Any of you can, or even just one thing that you learned or that you liked about working.
Why don't you stand up here?
Why not?
Why don't you guys get in a line and then you get to take turns answering the
Gotta
questions?
get you all.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the question?
So just tell me one thing that you liked as you were working on your film, or one thing that you learned.
I learned that when you work together, you make something better.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Great lesson.
Did you all hear that?
So that's worth repeating. When you work together, you make things better.
Well, I wanted to stay up, guys. No, don't go away, don't go away. I just want to say I'm really pleased to see that our district is involved in this. And we all did see a presentation at the School Board Association meeting that we went, or a conference we went to. And so they did it in front of everybody, but then they did it in another room, and I ran to that room with, I think Phil was with me, and we ran in there and we listened to it again. And then I went up there and said, here's my card, call us, because we would really like to see this. Of course, I was hoping we would all like to see it, but we did. Everyone wanted to do this, so we worked together as a team to agree on it, and then our superintendent was able to talk with them as well. So what I want to say to you is we did go to see another school. That school was having lots of problems. When they introduced this program, it changed everything. Everybody was engaged. The students, the parents, the neighborhood, everybody making something special for you guys. So I hope that what you're learning now, you're going to take on to something else, because I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm not going to ask you to answer it necessarily. You can just raise your hand. How many of you learned how to work together? Raise your hand. Yay. Okay. Next question. How did you know that each one of you was important and needed? I hope you learned that.
Somebody answer that?
Okay. You know what I'm saying? Where none of you were more important. Each of you was important to the program. Is that right? Okay, raise your hands. Yay. Okay. Because this program actually shows you that not everybody can be the actor, not everybody can be the director, not everybody can be whatever the jobs you had, the photographer, the person who writes the story. So you know that now when you go to see a film, a movie, you're going to say to yourself, aha, at the end of the show, they have all these credits, right? Everybody gets their name in there because everybody's important. Without all of you guys working together, there'll be no film. Yay. Okay? Do you agree? Yeah?
Yes.
All right.
You guys are great. And your smiles just makes me feel like I know you love it. And thank you to the principal and to the teachers and to everybody who's making this happen. Because they're part of the team, right? Do you thank them?
Yes.
Yeah? Be sure you thank them. And then thank your parents for allowing you to do this as well. Okay? So for that, I want to say I'm really proud. I can hardly wait to see the show for real at a theater on a big screen. And we're going to get all kinds of people to come be in the audience, right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a couple of questions. One of them, because I'm a writer, I want to know, in the beginning, did it look like, did every student write a pitch for a story? Yes. And then you guys had to pick just 4?
Yeah.
Wow. That's got to be really hard to decide which ones are both interesting stories and ones that might work for a movie. So good job on that, and I'm glad that everybody got a chance to come up with a story, exercise those imaginations. My other question is actually for you, because I know I said I was going to come and watch them before the holidays, which was delusional on my part. Can you remind me which days so that I could come by?
They are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10:30 till 12:15.
10:30
to
12:15. Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll let you know and come visit. I want to see that.
Thanks to you guys for presenting, and thank you for the teachers and staff for making this possible, and especially thanks to Ms. Brazuela and Ms. Leagi Anuai, who couldn't be here tonight, but I'm sure she'll be extremely excited to see tonight's presentation for making this possible, because it sounds like an incredible program, and I feel like a lot of the programs, or a lot of the skills and knowledge you get from this kind of program kind of transcends just beyond filmmaking. It transcends everyday life, working in the classroom. So thank you for everybody making this possible. So I have a couple of certificates to present to people, to students who presented tonight.
This is for Emiliano Gonzalez for participation in the flag ceremony and special presentation.
This is a certificate of appreciation also for participation in the flag ceremony and special presentation.
Thank you again very much, and let's give them again a round of applause as well. Thank you. Moving along, next item is 7A, Communications, Board Member Acknowledgements and Commendations. What is that?
I don't have any. Welcome back to the year. It's 2018. I was really impressed that Mr. Koo remembered that when he was announcing the meeting. It's always a challenge. So just hope that everybody's off to a great new year. I haven't been to any special events yet since school started.
So, let's see.
While she's looking, I did want to thank the students and their parents for coming tonight, since it appears that you're abandoning us. Just fine, go home and do the homework and get to bed. Busy kids, busy kids. All right.
Okay, so I'll move on because they're almost out. I just wanted to ask tonight that we close in memory of Albert Medina Jr. I'm not sure if all of you know this individual, but he was a good supporter of our school district. He served as personnel commissioner. I think it was for 8 years. I'm not sure exactly, but he passed away. And I know the funeral is this Friday, and I just want to make sure that we close in memory of him. And I have the obituary, so I can share that with you, get all the information. And also, we lost a teacher, Helen Marie, and I don't know how to say the last name, Mock? Okay. Anyway, and she has a great background as well, and she was a special education teacher with us and worked until her retirement. She did other things before that, but she was in our district, so I'd like to make sure we close the memory in.
Yeah, we did that at our last meeting, I think.
Oh, why did
we
I
can
not?
do it again.
Oh, because
Just to be
it's
sure.
in, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we did it in our December meeting. Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah.
who did it. I mean, I didn't.
Mr. Valenti announced it at the December meeting.
Oh, because this was just in the paper now.
I'm sure.
So I thought it
Yeah.
was
No.
somebody else.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, well, if we already did it, we don't need to do it again, but I just, I was.
That's okay.
No, that's all right. Okay, so we'll do Al.
Is that it?
Yeah, because there wasn't any special things that I can talk about.
I just want to acknowledge that we just had Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and hopefully people had a nice rest, or they reflected on peace and things that we can do to better our country and our world.
I don't have any comments as well, too. Just Happy New Year, and look forward to a great school year to come.
I would like to make one comment is I did talk to the superintendent that this I keep thinking we're in the school district building, at our district office, and that I just went to it and saw the remodeling. It's absolutely gorgeous. Just makes you feel really good to go in the office. And it's a good presentation when somebody comes in to talk to any of our administrators or even sign their child up for school, is to be in a really nice setting. But I did mention that our building was dedicated to Martin Luther King Jr., and at one time it was always visible on all our stationery and everything, and it hasn't been. And I'm just asking that if the board would recognize that and agree that we should have that the way it used to be, so that if we're going to dedicate to somebody, that it be part of everything that we do. So I would like to see that happen. So, okay.
Item 7B, correspondence and superintendent comments.
Yeah, just a couple. So yes, thank you, Ms. Brizuela, for reminding me. We did redo our stationery to include the name of the Martin Luther King Jr. Building.
Thank you.
We will disseminate that. That happened right before the break, so we'll make sure all our schools get the new stationery template. I just wanted to, again, commend the students who presented today and were honored. I think they exemplify the kinds of qualities that we want, and we are teaching all of our students, the hard work, the perseverance, serving others, following your passions and your art. I think tonight we were able to capture some of that and only highlighting some students, but we can find these qualities evident in all of our schools and in many of our students. The Latino Film Institute project was brought to us. We're able to fund that through the proceeds from the Measure I local funding initiative. It's one of the projects that we are funding across the district that will bring additional enrichment and activities to our schools. And so largely we thank our community for supporting that measure and helping us make our schools the kind of schools that provide these activities for our students. I am sad that we at this point are only offering it at one school, but I think this will be a good jumping off point for other schools to join and to figure out ways that how we can fund additional schools. So, and then lastly, in your mail packet, you received there's a menu list there for getting ready for our governance meeting on February 3rd. So you can make your lunch selection either tonight or in the next couple of days and pass it to Ms. Kovarai, then we'll make sure that you can eat that day.
Is it in this?
It's in your mail envelope, yep.
Thank you. Item 7C, administrator comments.
Well, first off, I'd like to say, sorry I missed the students because it's one of my favorite parts, listening to them, because I'm always amazed at what we're doing and what the students are actually doing with the guidance of the district, and I missed it. So, but that's because I was at a Citizen Oversight Committee meeting, and I'm happy to be here. And I do want to say that I, as well as Superintendent Vidalis and a couple other of our colleagues, attended the governor's January proposal for the 18-19 school year. And so this will go to legislation, and they'll go through it, and he'll come back with his May revise, and they'll come back with what they propose, and then he'll sign it, and we'll be going towards our budget next year. But at the next meeting, I will be presenting a full presentation on that meeting, but I would like to give you some highlights, the most important things, and that is, of course, how it's going to affect the district. First off, Prop 98, of course, is going up. Something I want to say, and I will say it again later, is that Prop 98 is supposed to be the minimum guarantee of funding for school districts. And that is what we get funded, like it's a maximum. It's supposed to be the minimum, but we are being funded on a regular basis at the minimum. And so until we go beyond that, we're always going to be struggling. School districts in California will be struggling. So, of course, it is going up. COLA was at 2.15%, and that has been changed to 2.51%. So that's good news. It's going up instead of down. And if you recall in my last presentation to you, I gave you different scenarios about where we might be. And one of the scenarios that I believed was going to happen is that LCFF would be fully funded, and it will be fully funded. So that will put us 2 years ahead of schedule, because it was supposed to be fully funded in 2021. It will be fully funded in if it goes through, which I would assume it will, I do believe legislature will support the governor on that, and we'll have full funding of LCFF. Now, so you understand that, that means we will be fully funded from all the money that we had lost before, pretty much. And because we have a high free and reduced and EL student count, we do get a little more supplemental and concentration grant funds that is in addition to, not all of it, but some of it is in addition to what we had received before. So we are the winners, but we're not like huge winners. There are no huge winners in this. We're basically, all those cuts that we got in the past, we've got them all back. We get our COLA, we get some extra funds, but it's still nominal. So basically, it's like you're going to get a raise in 2 years, a 10% raise. It's not 10% though. And you get it 2 years earlier. That means you get 2 years with more money, and then the years after that, you're basically where you would have been if it came in slowly. But that's good news, all right? And then the LCFF did get the COLA as well, and we are getting one-time monies again. And I said that the one-time monies would be as much as $2.6 million, billion that the state would have, and that would translate in about 2.6 for us if they gave us all in that one-time monies. And they're not giving it all to us like that. It's 1.8 billion. So for the district, that's going to be $1,725,000 of one-time funds. Make no mistake about it, that's very good for us. And again, you'll see this on a presentation at the next board meeting. In addition to that, special ed will get COLA. Preschool and childcare will get 2.8% is what they said, even though COLA is 2.51, so they will go up. And they are nearly 3,000 extra slots in the preschool statewide, and so we would expect to get some of those slots as well. They are authorizing, the governor wants to authorize $640 million of Prop 51 monies that will not even fund half of who's in line yet, but we will also be getting in line for funds, but those funds will already be used for others. And the clean energy jobs, that's going to sunset. It has 5 years, it's going to sunset, but we are getting in line for that as well before the sunset. And again, the feds, it's continued uncertainty with the federal government. With the new tax bill, how that's going to affect us. The California taxpayers will only be able to deduct $10,000 of state and local taxes, which includes their property taxes and their state income tax. However, the state of California is trying to work around that and try to figure out some ways that we can kind of dance around that a little bit legally. And then also, mortgage write-off rates are only on $750,000 of your mortgage. And of course, we know $750,000 does not buy you a house here, even if you put 20% down. Stock market is up, GDP is up, unemployment is down, and what's going to happen with NAFTA, we don't know. This is the governor's final term.
Yeah.
In my opinion, outside of the reserve cap, which I don't like, I think he's been an excellent governor for California and for school districts. I really do think that he's done a good job. And we'll see who comes next, and hopefully everybody will vote for who is the best. And again, in the governor's budget, there's nothing for the increase in STRS and PERS that we've been experiencing all along, and we're continuing to experience. And there's nothing to increase the LCFF base revenue that the district gets, nor is there anything to increase special ed funding. So again, I will have a more in-depth presentation for you next meeting, and I look forward to sharing that with you.
Okay. Next item is item 7D, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum of time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. We have one speaker card. Pamela DiGiovanni.
Good evening, Honorable Clayton Koo and members of the board. I just wanted to say that to reassure the board, something they already know, that tonight at the Citizens Oversight Committee on the measure for the meeting, that to be able to explain the expenditures and everything, that Ms. Kessler did an excellent job. And I was wondering myself, why did I have extra coffee? Why am I understanding this? But I really have to say that her explanations, and she made sure that I was included, and then recapped a lot of the different things on the projects, and that it was an excellent job, and look forward to it, and that to the members of the community and to the teachers and everything, that we're in good shape as far as that. There were people asking a lot of pertinent questions, and they were very amenable, and that we need to know that we need to applaud people when they really do good things. And so the board's great. And secondly, I want to make sure that we did get funding, when they say public school funding, for the people to understand, which you guys already understand, that as a layman and community member, that when they say public funding for our schools, sadly, that public funding is part of the charter schools, is getting that money. So to pay attention when they are out choosing a governor or any other elected officials, someone that really supports our public schools, like our 100% public schools, openly and are committed to this district, that we really need to make sure that more money comes this way for true public schools, not slash, not hyphenated, and that our teachers take the opportunity, that make sure there's opportunity for all students. And I know you will do your work, due diligence in that. So I thank Ms. Kessler and members of that board and committee, and our superintendent and board members for doing such a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is item 8E, general functions. Consent agenda. The administration recommends approval of the starred items on the rest of the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next items, item 8C, proposed revision to school site boundary book. The administration recommends revisions to the school site boundary book to simplify boundaries for Chelsea Court, Crestwood Drive, and Windsor Drive.
Yeah, these recommended changes. These recommended changes come to the board just to be more cohesive around neighborhoods. The ones that we previously adopted, one side of the street was assigned one school, the other side of the street was assigned another school. So the ones that we were able to see, we are bringing to the board right now, just make the whole street goes to one school. So that way, kids who live across the street can walk to school together and walk back home together instead of walking in opposite directions.
I noticed that when you put this down, you put down Pacifica on some of the streets. So I guess if people know what it is.
Oh, you're looking at the whole boundary. Yeah, we have some streets in Pacifica.
Yeah, well, I realize that.
Mhm.
But I'm just saying, you put it there, which is nice, but we don't have it for Broadmoor. Because we're not Daly City.
Okay, so we can
I mean,
look
if
at
you're going
that.
to do it, in some instances, I just think it should be.
Yeah, I think the reason we just do it is because it is a completely, like,
It is
because all of Daly City, all of Broadmoor are in our school district, and only like 3 blocks in Pacifica are.
But it would be nice if people would know where they really are located, that's all.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to always support Broadmoor. We are real.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No need to apologize.
I'm not. Anyway, since if you do it, then I notice you have numbers, so there might be a few streets that might be half Daly City and half Broadmoor Village. But it's good for us to know, for people to know.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Otherwise, thank you for updating it.
Yes, I think it makes excellent sense to get those
I'm
sides
sure
of the
we
street
didn't
together.
catch them all, but these are the ones that we've been aware of. So,
So there may be more that come to our attention eventually?
Yes.
You know, they do that a lot, because when whoever's let's say like for voting, why is it one side of the street goes to one precinct to vote, and another one goes on the other? It's like, Can't they put it together where neighbors can drive each other? It is what it is.
So, we need an action.
Anyone make a motion?
I move that we approve the revision to the school site boundary book to simplify the boundaries.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. So we're skipping item 8E for our next meeting. Item 8F, report on workforce housing feasibility study conclusions. Representative from Education Housing Partners will present results of the feasibility study undertaken by the district over the last several months with regards to establishing a workforce housing development. Results, financial analysis, and next steps for pursuing the project will be outlined for the board.
So for this part, I'd like to invite Ms. Alexandra Daum forward. We're actually going to present together, so she'll do part of the presentation, I'll do part of it. You did receive a fairly detailed feasibility report in your board packet. I've read it once, but I do need to read it over a couple more times just to fully comprehend everything, and I'm sure you do as well. So tonight's presentation is just a high-level digest of that report that you have in your board packet. So, Ms. Daum, if you wouldn't mind starting us off, and we'll move forward from there. I got it.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice, so it'll go in and out, but hopefully mostly in. So good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Alexandra Daum, Project Manager of Education Housing Partners. Been working with the district for almost a year now, trying to figure out what the best site is for faculty and staff housing here, and then ultimately, once we selected a site, which you all know about, whether or not housing is feasible on that site, the MP Brown Elementary site. So tonight, as Superintendent Vidales mentioned, we're going to go through the high-level summary, the high-level takeaways from this process. First being the process overview, just how much work and thought went in. So split this up into sort of the key activities that were our fact-finding, information-seeking portion of the process, and then the key outputs that came out of it. First thing, we did a faculty and staff survey to assess the interest in below-market housing. Sorry, I just
Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure I didn't have something on my face or something. Okay, so we did a faculty and staff survey assessing the interest in the below market rate district-owned housing and reported out to you all the results of that survey. There was astounding interest in this type of project, and so that was the first step, hurdle to overcome, make sure that there's really demand here for this, which there is. We then met with Daly City Planning and Building staff to make sure that the political avenues were feasible for the project and that we weren't going to encounter some sort of major roadblock. And again, that turned out to be favorable. The city is largely in favor of a project like this. The fees are within a range that does not make the project financially infeasible, and the timing is also reasonable. It's longer than we would all like, but that's the case with building anything in California. So it is a reasonable process to go through that we feel we can get through successfully. The third thing was to really focus on the physical site itself and to make sure that those constraints of the site were workable, that we could work around them and build a project without having to jump through too many hurdles. The main hurdle that we did identify physically is there's geotechnical concerns on the site, and so that was an area where we really dove deep, and literally dove deep because we did geotechnical borings on the site where you go down 20 or 30 feet, take a small sample of the dirt all the way down, and pull it back up, analyze it, figure out what it's made out of, and make sure that it will support a building of 3 stories, which is in some cases how high we're building up to. So we did that deep analysis and geotechnical concerns and came up with it is not, the soil out there on MP Brown is not the ideal soil. If we could pick soil to build on, it wouldn't be that. But we've found some workarounds. Our geotechnical consultant advised us on some mitigating measures, such as foundation systems that we can put in that will make the buildings more sturdy, and a little bit of soil mixing and compaction that we can actually do to the soil that's there to make it more sturdy. We can get into that more later on, but suffice to say, there are challenges there, but they're not insurmountable. They will have costs associated with them, and their budgets held in the financial reports, the financial portion of the report you receive. There are budgets held for that geotechnical work. And then lastly, it's important. We knew it was really important to this board and to the superintendent that we make sure the community was on board with the project from the beginning. So we had a presentation October 4th, very early on in our planning for this project, to make sure that there were no significant community concerns, significant faculty and staff concerns. And while we definitely had questions at the meeting, we had engagement, we had some even critical questions. I think for the most part we came away thinking that there was mostly support, and the folks that were skeptical were either converted then and there, or we thought there was a path to getting them on board and having them be supporters of the project. So no major community or faculty staff concerns that would not be able to be overcome. That's all the key input activities, I'll call them, to test out the different areas of challenges. The key outputs, the main one is the report that we just mentioned that you have in your board packet. It's designed to be sort of a step-by-step guide to how to build this project. It gives you all the things you're going to have to do, all the things you're going to have to think about, how much it's going to cost, the schedule, how long it's going to take. So that's the goal there, is to have a document that really memorializes all the work that's been done in this investigation, so that future cabinets, future boards, can pick up again and from anywhere and really get this out of the ground. Last bullet here, which I just mentioned briefly but should go into more detail on, is the numbers portion of the feasibility report is very detailed and thorough, because the big question here is how much is it going to cost, and when are we going to incur the cost? Is it going to all be at the beginning, or is it going to be spread out evenly over the end? So you'll see a total development budget, a monthly cash flow showing when that budget will be spent, and then a pro forma financial model, which is actually not just for the development period, but is a model that shows how the building is going to run when it's up and operational. So what are going to be the revenues and what are going to be the costs? And hopefully your revenues are greater than your costs, which they are for sure. But that shows you how it's going to perform in the long run. Do you want me to do this?
Go ahead.
Okay. And so maybe I should have led with this, but the big question is it feasible? And in summary, we do believe that building the project proposed in the feasibility report you saw, which is 48 units on the NP Brown site, we do believe it's financially, politically, and physically feasible. And just so you know, that's not always the assessment. We have come back to boards with an infeasible verdict, so to speak, so it's very exciting. In saying that it's feasible, what I mean by that is that it achieves the 3 goals that were laid out for the project at the beginning. One is to develop sufficient housing to meet the needs of the JESD faculty and staff to be leased at rates 30% or greater below market rate. And so you'll see it in the financial analysis, the rents that we're able to achieve are 30% lower than market rate, and that still enables the project to pay back. If it's financed through COPs or however it's financed, it would enable the project to pay back its financing obligations out of the revenue from the project. So this would make a significant impact on the pressures that your faculty and staff are feeling with how expensive housing is in the area. Second goal is we wanted to improve circulation at the campus, and so the site plan as designed brings the drop-off off the street and into a one-way loop. So a 2-lane one-way loop. So you're not going to have the traffic. You'll have traffic. I'm not going to promise no traffic, but you're not going to have the traffic that would be caused by a 1-lane loop. So anyone pulling over causes the whole thing to back up. You'll have a lane for folks to pull over and drop off, and then a second lane that's more of the bypass, faster moving lane, so that those folks can get in and get out more quickly. It will also, just the mere fact of moving it off of Eastmore means it's going to be a lot safer for the kids, safer for other pedestrians, safer for drivers. It's, I think, a huge improvement to the current situation. And lastly, there are existing solar panels out there on campus that the administration wanted to maintain the functionality of, obviously, because they're a great investment and have, I think, been quite successful. And this site plan does maintain that functionality. We're very careful of the distance that we need to provide between buildings and the solar panels so that the buildings don't block sun from the solar panels. So we've achieved all three of those goals, and that's what goes into the assessment of, yes, it's feasible.
So financially, the project to build will run about $18.6 million, and it's made up of those three different types of activities: entitlements, permitting, and largest is the actual construction. We also needed to incorporate what are the annual sort of operating costs, expenses for a development like this, and the estimate based on past projects is about $220,000. And then on the right side, you see how much, if we were able to get a loan on this, what would be the first payment at the end of the first year, and then what the estimate would be for rent. Now, these rents are not deals in the sense that it's still a lot of money for, you know, if we're thinking what were things like 10 years ago, or what are things like 50 miles from here, east. But, you know, it does represent a significant savings for Daly City and certainly other communities in the Bay Area. And it brings us right about 30% less. And so it is doable. It will save folks money who are looking to live closer to work, because it does provide that option. You have seen this before. This is the design as it was first conceived and we worked with. We're still moving forward with this. So Ms. Daum will speak about some of the things that we'll need to do to modify some of the geotechnical considerations, but this is what we're going to move forward, pursuing and investigating. Again, the site plan advantages you see here on the left, a review of all of the units that will be there will be 48 units made up of the 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units, with a larger concentration in the 1- and 2-bedroom, and smaller certainly in the 3-bedroom. We also are providing tenant parking in addition to rehabbing and improving staff-parent parking spaces. And you saw in here that we redesigned student drop-off and pickup that'll support a safer corridor along Eastmore for everybody. And we will be able to maintain the existing play structure. Obviously, it may not sit where it currently sits. We may need to move it to a different location just so everything flows easier, but we will maintain one at the school site. And it's up for replacement anyway. It's up, so it comes at the right time. So I'm going to ask Ms. Daum if she wouldn't mind going over some of these physical constraints and considerations that we need to take into account.
So these are the mitigation measures recommended by our geotechnical consultant to just accommodate the fact that the site there is what's called undocumented fill, which means at some point it was not as high up as it is today, and they brought in a material that was, we don't know what it was because it was undocumented, and so we can't say for certain its ability to withstand all the pressure that's going to be caused by 3-story buildings. So their recommendation are the 3 following mitigation measures. One is stiffened shallow foundation system on at least 2 feet of recompacted soil. So this just means, whereas some buildings, if you're on a perfectly flat, strong soil, the only foundation you have might just be a concrete slab between the building and the dirt underneath. In this case, we're going to have that slab plus additional foundations that go a little bit deeper into the ground, providing a more sturdy foundation. Then the recompacted soil, that gets into the second bullet point, which they're suggesting that we go in and excavate at least 4 feet of the fill and recompact it, which means exactly what it sounds like. Smush it together and make it stronger by making it denser, and they'll add more material in as well. I mean, it's very complicated, but then on another hand, it's actually not that complicated. They're just making it more sturdy and more substantial. And then lastly, they're recommending that we set back the buildings 10 feet from the edge of the slope. As you know, at the site on 2 of the sides, there's a pretty intense slope right at the perimeter. And so just a note that we have here is the site plan you see does not have that 10-foot perimeter around, because the recommendation came after we had done the site planning, but the architect has advised it's absolutely a way to accommodate that perimeter by moving especially the northern building slightly southward, and that will be accommodated. We didn't do it at this time, we're not quite there in terms of needing to have that design specificity until we go back to the city and are more advanced in the process, but it will be easy to accommodate that. And the first 2 bullets have already been accommodated, as I mentioned, by having a budget held for that specific work in the total development budget.
So Ms. Down referenced this earlier, but our district did meet with the City of Daly City in the summer and received generally very supportive comments and about the project. And they communicated that the following 3 things would be required. I don't understand all of it, but it makes a general plan amendment. Currently and zoning change. It's currently a school site. We have to change it to residential. And also the city's general plan has to include more residences, right? And is that what it is?
Just amend it to say that this can be used for that purpose, because it's intended for other purposes.
And then the lot line adjustment, I think we'd have to separate it from our school line and create a separate development property there.
Does that make the project any smaller?
No, it doesn't make any. It's just the paperwork that needs to follow, So it's no longer the MP Brown school site. It'll be called the Jefferson Elementary School District Teacher Staff Housing Site. Yeah.
Surely we can come up with something.
There will be. I'm sure we'll have plenty of discussion on how we should call it.
On what side, right?
Yeah. So, path forward. There was a mention in your report of a new law that was recently passed that opens up some additional options, provides us with some additional tools, and the primary one is that we are now allowed to partner with other school districts to work on these kinds of projects, and so that's something I think before I come back with the recommendation on how we move forward. Ms. Kessler and I need to investigate. We need to learn about it as other people are learning about it, because you saw that our cost was very close to our maximum of where we would want to be. And so if there's any way of combining forces, and of reducing some of the building cost, we would like to take advantage of that, because then the rents would then be much, much lower. And so I have a meeting next week to learn more about this and start to explore that. So we have the option of building the 48 units as described in the plan, and we think that's feasible. But then we have all these other different options of partnering, like we can partner with a neighboring district to develop on our property and would be available to both districts and their employees, partnering with a neighboring district to develop on their property and available to both districts' employees, and partnering with the neighboring district to build multiple housing projects on multiple properties. And that one, I think, is mostly like you want to have, you create more of a heterogeneous community when you have staff from a variety of districts living side by side rather than just one district. And so that might be a sort of a cool quality to have for the residents, but in addition to the lower rents. But that it's just something to explore. So we'll be learning more about that, and we think we should be able to have a recommendation to the board on how to move forward on this by the end of March. And at that point, we decide how to jump in, and then all of the ensuing, especially if it's in our district, the engaging with architects to fully build out what we need, and more community meetings to make sure everyone's aware of what is happening.
Very good. This seems like we're kind of going over to another discussion rather than what we were talking about. But I think we need to have more information on this, because this seems like we barely started the one project.
It is,
we're not
yeah.
even done, and we're talking about
Yeah.
doing something when we don't even know how this is going to work out.
Yeah, so you're definitely correct. We need more information, and
Put it in here. What
I need more information on this, just to be able to make a better recommendation to the board. And certainly, as that recommendation comes forward, information will also come forward as well. So this was not something that was available to us when we started the process, but is now available as an option. So I want to make sure that we explore those options before we make a decision, especially if we can come up with something that the rent would be lower for our employees, and still be able to accommodate our goals. But we will.
So how can we make the rent lower on our first project? We can't?
On our project?
I mean, we're talking about maybe if we work with another district, we might be able to have a lesser.
Yeah, I think the only way that actually, if we're going to build at the current site, the rents are going to be what they're going to be. I don't think we can make it any lower. I do think that if we partner with another school district to build on their sites that doesn't have some of the geotechnical concerns, rather than both of us, there's a lot of savings that happen with architects and general contractors and hiring only one. That might be a possibility, but I don't know. And so before I say, let's build on our property, let's not build, let's do this, I need to learn more about it so that we could make a better decision. So that will be something that we'll be doing over the course of the next month, to start learning about what are these new options and how do they impact how we want to move forward, and can we still accomplish what we want to do and get about 45 units for our employees to utilize. So
now that we're talking about this, do you think that people may wait until we do the double thing and we won't fill our place up? Do you think they can get it cheaper?
So
I think we're jumping the gun.
No. Our employees would not be able to live on another school district's property unless our district has entered into agreement with that school district, right? So if we have housing and somebody else has housing, if there's no agreement between us, we can't live in each other's properties.
And
So
these options are
So you missed my
different
question.
options.
Yeah.
We're not suggesting to do all of them. We're suggesting to do
correct.
either or.
We're going to do one of these options once we figure out how we're going to approach this.
So,
Yeah.
so in other words, by the time we have a place, that will be what the
What's
rent
available.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did wonder a little bit, reading that and reading about the problems with the site and the uncompacted fill, if that makes changes a little bit that calculation about the MP Brown site being more suitable than the Daniel Webster site. Do we need to revisit that? Or, I also know that even if you're on bedrock here, it's the, Monterey Formation and it's all crumbly, so,
Yeah, so we don't know what kind of potential fill is at the Daniel Webster site.
Right.
I mean, that looks like it was an excavated hillside and then a flattened.
Right.
So there
it's
could be the
quite
similar
possibly the same.
situations.
Well, yeah.
So I mean, I think we'd have to look at, if we were building somewhere that didn't have these geotechnical, what would the rents be? And then that would help inform our decision on whether or not we want to investigate another site.
Right.
If it's going to be $50 a month less, maybe not. If it's going to be $500 a month less, then maybe, right?
Right.
So I think we'd have to look at that more carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then wonder if there's any place in Daly City that
Yeah.
doesn't need
Yeah.
extra
I mean, and
foundations.
what, for me, being so close to our target worries me. We do know that labor, hiring labor and finding labor to complete projects on time and on budget is almost a fantasy world right now. So there's not a lot of wiggle room to let the price escalate in this option before
That
we
was
start
what I
having
was
to
thinking.
charge market rate rents. So if we're going to charge a market rate rent to live in district built housing, why not rent down the street where you don't, have to live next to a school site or something. So anyway, so we do need to make it low enough that it becomes an attractive option and actually fills the need instead of just creating more housing stock, which is a good option. But if it's going to be market rate, then it doesn't fulfill our desire.
Yeah, then that was what concerned me when I read the report, was that was coming out, penciling out at really the top end of what we would want to be charging. And the unforeseen is still unforeseen, so.
Because if you're doing market rate and the cost is going up everywhere around us, it's still not going to be affordable.
Yeah.
We do have some potential, at least, for being able to hold the line on a lower
Yes.
rent than the market.
Even if we started off at market rate, in 2 years, we would be below market.
Right.
Because we wouldn't escalate like the private
Yeah, that's true.
apartments.
And just one thing to address Board Member Douglas's question. We do have a very healthy contingency in the budget to account for the unknown.
Okay.
Now, the unknown is of an unknown magnitude. And so I could never tell you that contingency is the perfect amount to cover the unknown.
Right.
But we do make sure to have not just what costs we know about in there, but an additional, I believe it's a 10% contingency on the total budget that's not actually earmarked for anything other than what comes up.
Oops.
And one other thing to mention is possibly a bit of a curveball, but there are, one way to charge lower rents is to finance the project in a different way, so that your annual payment, and I'm looking at Ms. Kessler as I say this, but so that your annual payment is not as high and you don't have to cover as large of a obligation each year through your rents. So some options that other districts are considering are actually a general obligation bond as a way of funding this. Obviously, it's a totally different avenue and requires voter approval, but it's something to consider. And so that's another factor in the puzzle as to what rents you can charge, is how you finance the project.
I have a question. So if the rates of the rents, or if the rents are below 30%, does that make the project infeasible at that point, or is there still wiggle room in terms of around 30%?
Well, I mean, one way to think about it is anytime you're below market, it's a good thing, right? You're beating out what's available on the market, but 30% is generally what you look at, just to make it attractive for employees to want to live on district-built housing. If it's 10% less, it's like, well, I don't know. I'll just live on, with the general public than alongside other employees. So, I mean, it still is below market. And like I said, even if it's below market to start, at market to start, in 2 years, it becomes below market. And at least if it's at market, our employees have a greater chance of getting, even if they're oversubscribed, they have a better chance of getting a unit than on the open market, which are really difficult. Once you find a vacant unit, to be able to be selected to be the person to live there is the subscription rate is really high for any vacancy.
And one more factor to consider is when we take the market survey of what it costs currently to rent, so the average unit rent in Daly City right now is $2,800 per, so that's a blended mix of all the different unit types. That is apartment buildings that have been, some of which were constructed in the 80s. And so the silver lining of the fact that maybe you're just 30% below market, but you're 30% below market for a brand new unit most always when a brand new unit comes online, it's going to be above the average because they can charge that premium. So there's a hard to quantify, but definitely real extra discount that you're getting, because the unit you would be renting otherwise for that average market rent would be 10 years old probably.
50.
Or much older than that,
The whole
yeah.
Westlake development is what,
So
50 years old?
the real
Yeah, they're
comp to
charging
look
top
at would be
dollar.
brand new.
Yeah, we included the Westlake units in our analysis. Yeah.
Do you know where the other districts that are close to here, where they are in this process?
They're in various stages. We have Pacifica School District and the Jefferson High School District. I think Pacifica is probably the furthest along. High School District and us are about the same place. Other districts are starting to look at it. San Bruno and South San Francisco. I'm not sure where they are.
And are they, looking at this slide here and trying to figure out which model they're going to do?
I think everybody is. I think the new tool that was released sort of helped think. Before it was build something for only your employees unless you can't find anyone to live there. Then you can open it up to somebody else. But that hasn't been the case. So this now sets a path for districts to be able to collaborate on projects like this. Like some districts may have land and other districts may have funding, and so maybe together they can work to build something together.
Right. And as was noted in whichever one of those exhibits it was that talked about that, the economies of scale can help. If you can build a larger project, you do get a cheaper per unit. It sounds like we're pretty constrained on our piece of land. We can't really go any bigger even if we could find a partner, which is kind of too bad. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Next item is item 9B, Fernando Rivera We Day Overnight Field Trip. The administration recommends approval of Fernando Rivera's field trip to We Day in Los Angeles, which requires an overnight stay.
I can explain this. This is something that the leadership team at Fernando Rivera they were awarded these tickets to We Day, which is, I guess it's like a convention or I'm not actually sure too much about it, but I just know it's an event where it's inspirational speakers for leaders to really kind of inspire them to do the work that they're doing. And so 30 students they were given 40 tickets, so 30 students from their leadership team. They would like to go down with some teachers and parents and the principal, and looks like also their counselor as well. And so they're looking for approval because it is an overnight.
When they were given tickets, were they also given transportation?
No, the site, I believe, is funding that.
Okay.
If there are no longer any questions, I will entertain a motion.
I think it sounds like a great opportunity for some students, and I will make the motion that we approve the Fernando Rivera field trip to We Day in Los Angeles.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
So this is totally funded then? We don't have to take care of it?
The district doesn't take care of it. The school site and their fundraising will take care of it.
Yeah. I mean, I heard of that, but I want to make sure I heard it right.
Next item is item 9C. Local.
Can I just say
Oh,
something?
sorry.
This is the kind of thing that is nice if we can partner with our community or businesses that would probably be really glad to help out. And we did that before, years ago, when Policita School was going on 2 different huge trips to Florida. And that really makes us be working with our community. So maybe we ought to try to plan on that once in a while, because I know they would be willing to put in the money. Okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm holding on to this, and I know you guys want. See, I'm used to going this way, not this way.
Next item is item 9C, local control accountability plan updates. The local control accountability plan, LCAP, is an accountability plan that requires districts to disclose how local control funding formula, LCFF funds, are spent to provide high-quality education programs. The Jefferson Elementary School District Administration will share updates on the 2018-2019 LCAP developments.
All right, good evening.
Hi.
So this is kind of our mid-year point in the LCAP development, but it's also, you know how the president does the State of the Union, so this is kind of my State of the District on our LCAP goals. So, and I always want to start with our mission just to always bring it to the forefront, that we're, not just focusing on academics, we're looking at, respect, responsibility, as well as a safe, nurturing environment and civic excellence. So always want to bring these slides back just to remind you what the LCAP is. It stands for the Local Control Accountability Plan, and we're required to create this plan annually to disclose how we're spending the local control funding formula funds. It sounds like might be fully funded if the governor's budget is approved. And there are 8 state priority areas for districts, 10 for county offices, and each of those areas fall into one of 3 categories: conditions for learning, pupil outcomes, and engagement. And so it is also monitored now through the state. They have an accountability dashboard. It's called the California School Dashboard. I came to you in December, actually no, it was November, and I shared with you some local indicators, and to put it so that the December release of this dashboard was up to date for us. And so this is the website if you want to see it. I'm going to give you some snapshots, some overview of what it looks like as well. So the state performance levels and local performance levels are on this dashboard. The state performance levels are indicated with colors, and also a pie chart, so if you don't have a color printer, you can still understand where you are. And then the local performance areas are the areas that I shared with you at the November meeting, and it was either meeting the objective or not meeting it. Today I'm going to focus on the state performance areas because I already shared with the local. And so how you get those colors, it's really looking at change in status, or starting with status and looking at change. And so then this is just a generic view of, whatever the status is, you find where you are, and then you find if you change, either increase or decrease, and then you pin them together to get your color. So this is a screenshot of the dashboard for the fall release that, they released December, I think, 8th or so. And so you can see along the left-hand side here, these are the state indicators. The first one says chronic absenteeism, and it says not applicable. This is the first time they're collecting data, and so they don't have comparative data yet, because this is all to see if there's change. Well, it's the first time, so there is no change. And just to also highlight, I gave you some backup with the LCAP indicators in your packets, not in the slides, but in the packet. And it's all how we're doing with our LCAP metrics. And our chronic absenteeism data that's on the state reported is actually inaccurate. We submitted our files and included too many fields, and some of them we didn't need to add, and they counted them in our numbers. So we've already informed the state. They can't change it for us, so we're going to use local data so that we can have accurate data. But just so you'll know, you'll see some changes. This is still really new, and so we're learning how they're doing the calculations. And so in your backup, you're also going to see some strike-throughs, because we learned, oh, this is how they're calculating it. So the way we calculated before is no longer matching, or it doesn't match, so we've updated it. So you'll see that in your backup as well. But so chronic absenteeism we don't have yet. We'll have it next year. Suspension rate, English learner progress, and this is just how they perform on their CELT, and then reclassification, but that is also changing because it's a new assessment. And then they're looking at English language arts and math, and this is based on the CASP scores, and it's really how their distance from the level 3, which is, there's 4 levels, so level 3 is proficient, level 4 is exceeding, and so what is the distance from level 3 over and under? You'll see then across the top, it's all students for all of those areas, and then all the student groups. There are more student groups. I had to put it on another slide, so I'll show you that in a second. But you'll see that our suspension rates for all students is green.
However, they had a gap year, and so when they did the comparison, it's not, you can't compare the spring dashboard of 2017 to the fall dashboard because they had old data. I don't know if you remember that. It was like 13, 14, 14, 15. Well, now this is 15, 16, 16, 17. So this is up to date. And this is all based on 16, 17 data. So it's always in the past. You'll see that we are orange here, and I'm going to share our data in a moment. But then you can see what areas, you know, the red and orange is where we need to really pay our attention. I'm going to show you now the next student groups. I just couldn't, it just scrolled over. I couldn't fit it all on one page. So I kept the all students, and then you can see the remaining student groups. And so we had some highlights, and then we had some areas that we need to focus. So our goals, our district goals relate to those areas. And this is all part of the 8 priority areas as well. And so what I want to do today is give you that kind of mid-year update on each of these areas. I'm only giving you real high-level highlights. You can see them in the packet. I have all the areas for you. But this, just for the sake of today, I'm just going to share some highlights. This is also shared actually in more detail with our instructional leadership team a couple hours ago, which is probably why my voice is going. And then also we're going to be sharing more detailed data with our entire certificated staff on Institute Day, January 29th. And so we're making sure that everyone is familiar with this data. And they'll also be looking at their site data in a similar format. So let's start with student learning outcomes. So you've seen this in the past. Our data, this is our results from our English language arts and math data for our CASP. This is the state assessment. And you can see that we definitely have some areas of improvement. Last 3 years, this is the first year of the assessment and was in 14-15. And we've just kind of went up a little bit and then came back down. So, you know, we're pretty flat, stagnant. And this is not the scores we want to see. So we're making some adjustments, making some changes, and trying to identify what's the root cause, what's happening, why are we having these scores and not improving. Plus, we have more than 50% of our students not achieving the results in ELA, English Language Arts and Math, and we want to change that for our students. And so it's really kind of getting to that why. Why are we here? These are our English Language Arts, or it's A reading. It's a broad-based reading skill. This is a universal screen we put into place this school year to see really points in time along the year how students are doing. So this one is just really where they are in the winter. We did one in fall. And so the blue is how many students are, they call it college pathway, which just means that they are pretty much already proficient at their grade level already at this point in the year. And then we have students that are low risk, meaning that they are they most likely, hopefully, will be also proficient, but that means we have some work to do. We want to make sure that these are all 2nd through 8th graders, so we want to make sure that we try to meet a goal of at least 50% of our students are proficient. We have math results as well, but we only have them by certain grade levels, and so we're also still assessing, and so we'll be sharing those at a later date as well. But this is kind of, you can see where we are now. This is our first year of administering this universal screen, so we're still doing analysis to see, you know, is it predictive? And we won't know until we take the assessment. So for our professional learning for all staff, we track the attendance for our certificated staff at our August Institute Day and our October Institute Day. Our goal was 93% because that's what we had as attendance for last year. And so you can see we have a slight dip. October, we're not sure what happened there, but that also was the first day of the North Bay fires, so we're not sure if that affected attendance. But it's something we want to look at. You know, we want to make sure that the days are meaningful and people are attending. And so we need to make sure that we offer professional learning that is going to meet everyone's needs and that they want to be part of. We also surveyed the staff. It's part of our LCAP survey, and so I pulled one question from there, which is asking staff, are you implementing professional learning in the classroom? And so the blue bar is what they said in 2016, and the purple is what they said in 2017. Not sure what the dip is caused by, but it could be that we're not offering as many release days because of the sub shortages. But that's something that we're investigating and looking into. We did increase the number of staff that is responding to the survey, so that's good, because we are really getting a true indication of what people feel. So another goal is the positive school climate. And so we gave the surveys to students as well. We adjusted our surveys to fit what is happening in the state of California. So there's a new survey, or it's the same company that gave the survey, but they have survey questions that they are using in other districts. And so 40 other districts in the state of California are using the same one. So we have some comparative data, but some of it is new this year. Our goal is to have 85% favorability for students in the following areas. And so we have asking students, do they feel the discipline at school is fair? And so our 3rd through 5th graders had a different survey than our 6th through 8th. And you can see the results, 78% and 82% for our upper grades. In the next one is, do students feel safe at school? And so this one we did have comparative data. And so 83% of 3rd through 5th graders feel safe, which is down 3% from last year. And then 82% feel safe in 6th through 8th grade, which is up 7% from last year. And then we also have feeling connected. This is an important area to look at, because if students feel connected to the school, they want to come to school, so their attendance, they don't break the rules because they want to be part of the school community. So we have 78% of our 3rd through 5th graders feeling connected and 84% of our 6th through 8th graders. So all of our school sites are diving into this data, looking at the specific questions, and they will be making some action plans on this. We also need to look at our suspension rate. Students need to be in school. And that's one of the areas that you see, where you make the biggest impact, is when a student is in school and following the rules and able to learn. And so our suspension rates, we have 15-16 data and then 16-17 data. We don't have 17-18 year-to-date yet. We're still working on updating that in our data system. But we want lower, so we want it to decrease, so it is already decreasing, which is great. Chronic absenteeism, that's the one I was telling you about earlier. This is our local data, so if you were to look up the state data, it would not match, but this is our local data. I do have year-to-date. We do want lower, but it's still, pretty high. So we don't want students to be absent. When we talk about chronic absenteeism, that means excused and unexcused. And so it's more than 10% of the year. So if they're out 10% of the year, that means 18 days in the school year. And then that identifies them as chronically absent. And then our truancy rate, we're still waiting for data from the state, and we're trying to update our data system to get this accurate data. But it's 14.5% of students truant, meaning they're unexcused absences. And so we're still waiting for that data, which we'll update once we get it. But we always want to decrease. On truancy, we know on the chronic absenteeism, that's like 18 absences. If we say truancy, we obviously have a lot higher rate there. Is that because that's once, twice, 3 times?
3 days.
3 times, okay.
3 days if unexcused absences, or even 3 days of unexcused tardies over 30 minutes. That's counted in there as well. That's why that rate is higher.
Right.
And then our final goal is our community engagement. Tomorrow night we have our countdown to kindergarten. We hope we see you there at Thomas R. Policita from 6 to 7 o'clock. And really excited about it. So we did a survey with our families, and I am really proud to say that our goal was 35% this year, and we got to 52%. So that was huge, a lot of energy at the school sites to get those surveys from families. And so I feel confident about our results. And if you look, our results actually increased with a higher rate of responses. And so that's exciting to see. So that's something we're really proud of. We also have 5 categories now, and this is it's the same survey that I was mentioning that changed with using the one that matches what other districts in the state are using. So in parentheses, I have the new topic for each one. Academic expectations is the same, and then this is a brand new topic that we don't have data from the previous year. But you can see the favorability of families and how they feel about safety and school climate, attendance and support for learning, parent involvement, school connectedness, academic expectations, and knowledge of discipline and rules and norms. So where are we in the LCAP process is reviewing goals, collecting and analyzing LCAP metrics. And right now we're working on organizing our consulting with stakeholders, and I'll share those dates in a minute. And then in March, we'll prioritize. April, we'll be sharing drafts. And then in May, we'll be sharing a final draft with the Parent Involvement Advisory Committee and the District English Language Advisory Committees. And then we'll be coming to the board for approval. And then June will be the final draft with public hearing and then final approval. And so here are all the dates. The ones coming up, we have February 8th is going to our 2 union groups, but also it will be more of a community input. And then February 6th, actually, we have Californians for Justice, I believe. They're coming to our PIAC meeting, our Parent Involvement Advisory Committee meeting, to talk about LCAP input and how we can solicit that better. And then April 26th will be kind of the draft overview of the community input, and then you'll be seeing drafts of it along the way as well. And this is really just an update, and so we have our LCAP webpage, and our 17-18 LCAP has to be posted on the main page of the district website, and so it is there for anyone to view, the 108 pages.
I'll just spare time, right?
Small document.
There's also a highlight
reading.
document, right?
There are highlight documents, yes. There are highlight documents. Actually, the first couple pages of the LCAP, which is really nice, is a summary.
Okay.
So you can just look at that and feel like you understand the whole document. Any questions?
No?
Yes. So on slide 6, on the dashboard, just noticing on suspension rates for foster youth, that was the biggest need to improve. Are we doing anything specifically for our foster youth? Or
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. And just to note, this is actually the first time foster youth and homeless students were shown on this. We did
Okay.
not see this data for them. It said not applicable the
Right.
last time, so this is the first time we're seeing this data, and we're addressing it as well.
Okay.
Stephanie Martinez is our program specialist for student services, and she is our liaison for homeless and foster youth. And so she is also using this information and looking also at our student information through our data to identify who are these students and what is happening with them. So we're already highlighting, who are these students, and, because that's really, once you know who the students are, you
Right.
look at what is happening for them at the school site in their kind of career at school, then we can then support them. So offering programs, offering support, and identifying areas.
And I think with relation to foster youth, sometimes schools are not always certain who is a foster youth, but because they exist in other systems at the state level, the state's able to identify our students as foster youth, and we don't know who they are. When they're younger, we know more, or when it's really obvious. Someone enrolls mid-year, not with their parents, we know who they are, but if they've been with us for a while, sometimes we don't know. But because they exist, or they're with a grandma or grandparent or aunt or an uncle, we don't always think of them as foster youth, but because they're in the system, when we submit our data to the state, they link the systems and say, here's a foster youth, so many are in Jefferson Elementary. Sometimes we get numbers like, I didn't know we had 50. Like, where are they? Who are they? So we're getting better at trying to cross-reference that so that we know how to support our students, because those are the ones who will tend to have the outbursts and some of the emotional difficulties because of their situation. For whatever reason, they're in that situation.
And the communication between the county to get these, identifying who the students are, is getting better. So we know who they are. As Mr. Vidal said, we did not always know who those students were, because if we don't know who they are, we don't know if we can, how to support them.
Right. Okay, thank you. And then also I was wondering about the timeline. How do the dates match up as far as when we have to vote on our final budget, and then when the LCAP is fine. Are those dates
Yes.
aligned now? Okay.
Yeah, so you'll be seeing drafts along the way, but the budget is approved at the same time that the LCAP is approved.
Oh, yeah, I kind of remember
Yeah,
us doing that.
it has to be timed that way, actually. And I
Right.
believe.
The LCAP is first.
The LCAP is first, and then the budget is approved.
Okay.
But you'll see the LCAP quite a few times, actually, before it goes through, and it has to have the budget in it at that point. So you'll see it in May as well, I believe we bring you kind of a early final draft.
Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good, okay. Thank you.
Happy to walk away.
You're excused.
Next item is Section 10, Business and Financial Procedures. Item F, Resolution Number 18-01-17, Resolution to remove constraints on committed funds and inter-fund transfer. The administration recommends adoption of Resolution Number 18-01-17, Resolution to remove constraints on committed funds and inter-fund transfer from Fund 17 to Fund 01.
So I can explain this. We actually talked about it in the last couple of meetings. As you know, in 2015, you committed, or actually put constraints on and committed $6 million worth of funds within Fund 17 for the purpose of textbooks.
Yeah.
So now we are going to use $1 million of those funds for the textbooks. And so that needs to be uncommitted, and then the money would be transferred to Fund 1 so that we can purchase those textbooks. In addition to that, in our negotiations, it was agreed to that we would put aside $1,350,000 for employees to cover future costs, 80% of the future increases of health benefits until those funds ran out. We would do that, and then we would go back to the old cap. And so that $1,350,000, the place where we have it, is what we would be uncommitting that again from the textbook amount and assigning that for the purposes of paying for these additional costs that we have negotiated that we would pay for. And the reason why we assign it is because assigning it allows us to actually do that as on an as-need basis instead of coming to you every month, basically, to be able to pay for those expenditures. So we would use it from the assigned funds only for the portion that we agreed to for that period of time that those funds will last. And so, and then of course in the future, if we have additional funds and we can commit them again towards whatever area that you feel we would want to commit them, if, for instance, textbooks again, or maybe we assign more in the future in the negotiations to benefits, then we would address that at that time. But for the time being, we cannot use those funds because they are committed until they are uncommitted, and then and transferred and assigned.
So you're asking us to approve future?
No.
Just the one you're using now? Just the amount you're
What I'm
using?
asking is the total on commitment is $2,350,000, of which $1 million will be used now to pay for the textbook adoption that we're doing, and the other $1,325,000 would be for $350,000 would be assigned, and we will use that as the expenditures come in, the costs come in that are above that are the 80% of the increased cost that were agreed to in the negotiation process. And those will stay and will be used as necessary to to fulfill that obligation in the negotiation process.
So would you be letting us know when that happens?
I'm sorry?
You'll let us know when that's happening?
That will happen every month, as soon as, every month, because
Okay.
the cost, and we will we will let you know how much funds are left all the time. Every time I come to you with a interim report, it will show how much is still assigned and how much is still committed. So you'll be able to see how much is left every time. And then, of course, we can only use that for the purpose of that obligation that we now have through negotiations. But that will be available for you to be able to see at any time on the interim reports, and of course, anytime you want to know what's left in there, I would be able to share that with you.
So that would be also like how we have on the business business and financial procedures A on the consent agenda, approval of warrants. Would that just be included in that?
Well, the warrants that would include when we do make the payments and you approve the warrants, you're approving the payments that's being made to either Kaiser or Anthem Blue Cross. That is the portion that is the 80% that the district said, the 80% of the increase that the district has committed to support. That portion and only that portion would come out of the assigned amount.
Okay, but it won't be in, what he's asking is, it won't be in the warrants, in other words.
I guess what I'm saying
It wouldn't be stated in the warrants.
But that's part of when you're saying
What's
approval
paying
of
for
warrants.
it.
Yeah.
It's part of what's going to be paying for those warrants. So the warrants are coming out of different, for instance, a teacher at, I don't want to say, let me see here. A teacher at a school site is on Kaiser, and the increase for Kaiser was $100 a month. And the district said, we will pay for $80 of that, and you will pay for $20 of that. When the check is cut, it will just, it will reduce, it'll be an accounting process. We have to maintain it and control and watch how much is going from that. We've got to make sure that we charge it to the right place.
But it's only one check to Kaiser, as it were.
Right,
So
but
that
our
doesn't show up
our
separate in the
coding on
warrants.
it will indicate it.
Reflect.
And I would say that the coding would show that code. It's how much is going to go against that. We can set up a special code that will, like we have the different resource codes.
And so the business office does need to keep track of those funds, because the agreement is only good as long as there are funds left, right? So every month or quarter, I don't know how often they do, but they will go through, and as we continue to negotiate, the board will be updated as what is left and what
And it needs
needs
to be reconciled on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
So.
And will we be asked at that time to make a decision to continue?
No. This is assigning it, is giving us the authority to go ahead and use those funds for that purpose.
Gotcha.
When they run out, then we have
But that's what I
decisions
was
to
actually
make.
talking
Yeah,
about.
when they run out,
When
then
they run
that's
out,
another issue
will
for
you be
negotiations.
asking us? Okay.
Oh, that will be coming through the negotiation process, more than likely, or if there's any other process that we decide, if we, in the future, get some great big one-time funds that the board and the administration recommends, or the board feels that we can put it into that pot, it's most likely going to come through the negotiation process.
It would have to come to us for approval anyway.
I'm sorry?
It would have to come to us for approval anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, everything comes to us
Yes.
for approval in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe a miracle occurs and we get, Norwegian
Yeah.
healthcare.
Maybe we should advertise like some places do. Leave, in your will, leave a donation to that. That's right.
Yeah.
Doing it for everything else now.
A healthcare fund. Start a healthcare endowment. Yeah.
So, Mr. Koo, for this, we will need a roll call.
Okay.
Okay.
If there aren't any other
Well-
questions, I'll make a motion. Move that we, were there other?
We're done.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we approve resolution number 18-01-17, the resolution to remove constraints on committed funds and interfund transfer.
Second.
Could get the roll call?
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela. Aye. Dr. Douglas.
Aye.
Mr. Koo.
Aye. That was unanimous. Okay. Next item is item 10H, fiscal year 2016-2017 annual financial audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2017. Ahmad Grabe, audit partner with
It's also a tough one.
Favernick, Trine, Day and Company LLP will be in attendance to summarize the results of the annual financial audit of the district. The administration recommends acceptance and approval of the financial statement for the fiscal year 2016-2017 ended June 30th, 2017, as submitted by the auditing firm.
Right, great. Do I need to do anything here? Thank you for having me. This is the annual financial report of the district. The district is required by the California Government Code to undergo an annual audit of the financial statements. You are a recipient of specific grants, state grants and federal grants, and you are also required to undergo an audit from a federal compliance perspective and from a state compliance perspective. Going back to the financial statements, essentially what it is just a reaffirmation of what the financial information that is continuously being presented to you by management. We come in and we audit that financial information as of a specific date, which is the fiscal year end, the latest fiscal year end, which is June 30, 2017. Essentially the process is a confirmation process, really. We confirm your cash balances, we recalculate your LCFF allocation, we work with your debt and confirm the debt, confirm certain amounts are reported on the financial statements. The audit is really split into 3 phases. We do this throughout the year. The first phase is going out to the sites. We do some testing at the sites specifically related to attendance and how attendance is reported. We come in an interim phase. That is the phase where we put an emphasis on internal controls and compliance. From an internal control perspective, we take a look at the manner that the district processes its receipts, its payroll, its disbursements, procurement processes, multiple or different or various types of control processes that the district has. And then final is that confirmation process where we come in and we confirm the amounts that are reported on the financial statements. So I'm pleased to let you know that we had no adjustments to the financial statements. The financial statements, the opinion on the financial statements is a clean opinion, meaning that they are fairly stated in all material respect. The district did not have any findings with respect to compliance, state or federal compliance. And then from an internal control process that we have looked at, we noted no deficiencies in the internal control, no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the internal control. Required communication by us, we are required to let you know whether we had any adjustments to the financial statements or encountered any difficulties with respect to the performance of the audit. And I'm pleased to let you know that we were able to issue these financial statements on time by the required date that the state had stipulated for school districts to report. And we encountered no difficulties in the performance of the audit. Management had been very cooperative in providing us with the financial information that we needed. With that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Any questions or
No,
comments?
if there's nothing that they found, I
Control
guess it looks
issues,
good.
oh, yeah.
I guess it's an A.
I mean, even our student body funds came out clean this time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so with student bodies, we sampled them. We take a look at the controls that they have. Essentially, really, it's an approval process whenever a payment is made, and then making sure that the receipts are being tracked and deposited into these accounts. So for the sampled sites that we did in the current year, we sampled middle and we sampled elementaries as well. We noted no findings. It's a sample again, and this is what we look at. We looked at multiple types of disbursements that were made out of the student body accounts. We looked at the receipts that they collected, certain controls, revenue potentials, and ticket sales, and all that good stuff that happens at the student bodies. And with respect to the sample sites, we had no findings. with
That's great.
respect to
I think that's a first.
No, I
Well,
think this is the third year that we haven't had one.
Oh, maybe so.
And we don't, we
I
don't
have to
choose the
ask a
sites, they choose the
Right.
sites, and they rotate different sites and
Mhm.
such, so.
No, but I want to know why you only sample. You don't check everyone?
Yes,
No, I'm
so
just-
the
I'm
audit,
just asking.
the scope of the audit, in accordance with audit standards and in accordance with the government codes, it's really, at the end of the day, sampling of
Really?
multiple populations. It is a big district with a number of transactions happening. So it's not just student bodies that occur over here. You've got payroll, you've got procurement,
Yeah.
you've got disbursements, you've got multiple types of receipts. And it is very costly if the entire population is tested. However, from a sampling perspective, it is assumed that typically that the sample would be representative of the population. So we randomize the sample selection. We, depending on the type of population that we're testing, if it's composed of multiple segments, small dollar amounts, medium dollar amounts, larger dollar amounts, we do sample it. And based on the sample, historically speaking, it is representative of the population. So sites is sampled, disbursements, different types of transactions that occur, they're all sampled. Definitely, it is a choice of the district if they want to, have the entire population tested, but it's not common. That's not the common practice with respect to auditing or, for that fact, the school district auditing.
Right.
Okay. Good to know.
So if I may add, we have processes and procedures that are done. And these processes and procedures, they include internal controls. So the idea is if you follow a process, then it gets viewed and reviewed by the number of people, and it's done in the order and the manner it's supposed to be done. If it's done this way, then the odds of finding errors by other individuals is very high. And so what auditors do often is they go and they know our process, and they look at the process and determine, are there enough internal controls in that process? Are there segregation of duties where if something went wrong along the way, it would likely be caught? And so they determine, yes, your internal controls are good enough that they're likely to catch these kind of errors or fraudulent things, whatever it might be. And then they take a sample and they test that sample to see, was that process followed in all these samples? And the important part is that the process would catch the majority, most anything that would go through. And you can never catch everything, but that it would be sufficient to most likely catch things. And if that process, when they audit it, is determined that it is being followed, then we are most likely we would be the ones to catch the errors. They're making sure that our process is actually being followed and that the process is sufficient to catch errors. Would that be
That's correct. So it's a design and implementation of the internal controls is something that we take a look at. We interview district employees and look at the processes that they have in terms of a review and making sure that errors or even misappropriation does not occur. And then subsequent to that, we want to reaffirm the fact that based on these interviews, based on the policies that the district have these policies been implemented. And that's when we do the additional sampling from a control perspective, is to make sure that if the district says it's being reviewed by multiple people, are these signatures evident on these documents? And definitely that's something that we look at, which is the design and implementation of internal control.
So you check all of the receipts that come through, your department?
I'm sorry?
Does your office check all the receipts to see that everything is okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We check everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, if that's the process, okay. I just wanted to make sure because things do slip through sometimes. No. Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. I want to thank you for being very patient through so much of our meeting before you got your chance.
Good to be here.
He's been here even earlier because he was at the other meeting.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
So the second component is a specific audit with respect to Measure I. It's a little bit of a different scope than the districts. It is basically two components. The first component is making sure that bond money, Measure I money, are being accounted for separately, and it's not being, I guess, blended with other funding sources with other expenditures or funding sources that the district has. And this is the financial component of the audit. And then the second component, they call it a performance audit. It is a compliance audit. Both of these audits are required by Proposition 39, which is what allows these bonds to be issued and voted on. So the financial, again, is essentially an affirmation or confirmation of the fact that all receipts have been accounted for, all disbursements have been segregated, and then the leftover cash is being accounted for, and that's all separated and segregated from the district funds. That is the financial opinion. And then from a compliance perspective, it's the fact that the district expended those funds on what the voters had voted on within the language of Measure I. And again, it's a sample. This one had an 80% coverage in terms of the sample. So we actually covered 80% of the total expenditures that were charged to Measure I, and we noted no exceptions. And the way that we split that population, again, is small, medium, and large. It is a representative sample from each stratified segment of that population. And I'm pleased to let you know that we noted no exceptions with respect to the compliance. From a financial statement perspective, there are no receipts this year. There were no bonds that were issued in the current year. I believe it was last year is the third series that was issued.
This year is
70, yeah. I'm talking historical. That's the way we always work with the prior year. So receipts were only basically interest. Expenditures were capital related. Some of it were payroll related. So again, we sampled it and we made sure that it's in compliance with the ballot language. And pleased to let you know that we noted no exceptions with respect to Measure I.
Great, cool. If there are no more comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion for this item.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2016-17 annual financial audit report for the year ending, wait, do I have the right one here?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it sounded differently. Okay,
Okay, second.
thank you. I need to say the whole thing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is Section 11, Certificated Personnel. Item A, Certificated Retirement 2017-2018. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request from Donna Hart, second grade teacher at Daniel Webster, effective January 8th, 2018. Ms. Hart has been employed by the district since August 29th, 1997. The administration also requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending Ms. Hart for her years of service with the district.
I will make a motion that we approve the retirement of Ms. Donna Hart, effective January 8th, 2018, and that an appropriate resolution be prepared commending her for years of service.
Second motion?
All those in favor?
Aye. And may she have joy of retirement.
Unanimous. Congratulations. Moving along the agenda, next one is Section 13, Board Policies, Administrative Regulations. Item A, Board Policies, Administrative Regulations, October 2016 CSBA Board Policy Revisions. First reading, the Board will review and revise Board Policies, Administrative Regulations from October 2016 CSBA Board Policy Revisions as stated in the first reading.
as far as I got, I came up, which I admit was not all the way through on the however many times of reading. I had one question, Bernie, it's AR 6173C. This is really a minor thing, but it's a question of something, whether it's relevant to us. We're talking about education for homeless. Under that item 10, it talks about ensuring that the youth understand and have access to assistance from the district liaison to receive verification of their independent student status for purposes of applying for federal student aid, which I assume is collegiate financial aid. And since we aren't a high school district, I'm guessing that's not relevant to us.
That is correct, yes. So we will strike that and bring it, when we bring it back.
I'll let you know if I find any others.
Thank you. And you probably reviewed this too.
I know.
The first round.
So that's why we read it repeatedly, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Seeing what different things leap out. That was the only one I had.
Any other comments or questions?
Gonna mark something in here. There's several things, I think.
Didn't use a Post-it note, you'll never find it. I said, if you didn't use a Post-it note, you'll never find it.
Well, I did, but they always fall out. I do, I should just mark it, like, or fold it over or something. Well, it'll be for a second reading, so when I come across it, I'll bring it next time.
So I will then, if there are no more comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion for this item.
Okay, I will make the motion that we approve the October 2016 CSBA Board Policy revisions for the first reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item, Section 14, reports from board members on professional development. Item A, 2017 CSBA Conference. Board member Bree Brisuela will highlight some of her learnings as well as give a report about her attendance at the California School Board Association CSBA 2017 Annual Education Conference and Trade Show in San Diego from November 29th to December 2nd, 2017.
Just get my things organized.
There we go.
Take this home with me. Okay. One thing I have to say is we were a little disappointed with the conference because it was told to us to bring our cell phones, our smartphones, even though I have a dumb phone, anyway, and that everything was going to be digital. And they were not prepared at the conference where they had the conference. And in one of the sessions, it took 25 minutes to get anyone on to the first page. And so I did put that in my comments so that hopefully next time that they have it, they'll be sure that they're going to be able to take care of us. Now, something must have happened because the escalators were not working, the elevators were not working. Something was going on over there. So I think that they realize that and they're going to make a difference because there was a lot of complaints about that. Other than that, the sessions I attended, I liked very much, except the one that I sat for 25 minutes and didn't get to see or hear anything. So I'm going to go on and tell you, talk about, I know I don't have that much time to go into everything, but I just wanted to say that one of the things that I went to was about forming partnerships. And it said partnerships are key to success. Riverside County District Attorney was there, and he talked about everybody involved with school education needs to see the big picture. And so everything almost that I went to, a lot of it was all talk about either suspension or absence. And it was quite interesting when I went to a couple of them. Because they didn't really explain it on this was our program. It used to be a big binder practically, and this was our program. Which led me to believe everything sounds the same, but it really wasn't when you went in there. It was almost the same subject with a different point of view. So anyway, I had to show you that this was like, please next time, do a little better job. you know. So I'm not too happy about that, but okay. So they talked about poor attendance, that it contributes to dropout rate, and dropout rates contribute to crime, and then we have to find a preventive approach. So they were calling it REAL. So what was nice was the Riverside School District worked in connection with the county district attorney, which really was, it sounded in the beginning that it was going to only be about high school students, but it wasn't. It's saying that it starts from pre-K. We don't have control over before pre-K, but it starts at pre-K. So what it's called REAL, R-E-A-L, this is the initials of the program they had, and it says to form relationships, to engage people, and then an adoption of what you're putting together, and that everyone learns how they can work on this project. So they're saying, they talked about chronic, and you mentioned it in your report, the chronic absenteeism, and questions are why are students missing school? So they explained, and we all know, that the ADA average daily attendance is actually the way California allocates the funds that the state gives us, which kind of is not good. Actually, they should just be giving us the money to educate our children, because that hurts all the kids. Anyway, so they talked about truancy and how missing school without permission is what is referred to as unexcused absences. And I think you said it earlier, so I'm kind of repeating what you said, but I'll let you know that I was listening at the conference. The 3 absences, or 3 times being late to class by 30 minutes without a valid excuse is considered being truant. Whether or not we're actually doing that, I'm not sure. I know we try to encourage the children to come to class and to have us parents deliver the children on time. Okay, so they described chronic absence, students missing for any reason, excused or unexcused. And that's where we're having a problem. Just because an absence is excused doesn't mean that it's good for the child. I know that we, in the past, have had times when parents take their children out at different times of the year for a vacation, and that, even though they've got homework, as I read something else, you'll see that it's not helping the child. Okay, and then also suspensions is defined as missing 10%. Okay, so whether it's chronic absence for excused or not excused, or suspensions, is all put together and defined as missing 10% of school days. This will be included in the data dashboard that's coming out in November, as you alluded to. It's November 2018. So what they tried to tell us is, don't wait until that dashboard comes out. Start working on it now, so that when it comes out, we're going to have a better standing. So we shouldn't be so quick to excuse a lot of absences. And I think that what they were saying is, okay, let me read what I wrote down here. So we're just saying we need to be prepared for 2019 to prepare for that whole year when we find out our status at the end of the year. Exposure to language. Starting in pre-K, attendance equals exposure to language-rich environments, especially for low-income children. Quite often, it's like, well, if a pre-kid child or a kindergarten child can't get to school because they got a sniffles or something, or they don't feel like going, it's not really okay, because they're missing out on their education. Because we all know education is starting much younger. As we know, they say even babies need to be read to and talked to and sung to, because many years ago, they just took care of babies as babies. They didn't sit there and try to teach them anything. So, so then it says, chronic absence is a proven early warning sign that the student is behind by the time they reach the 3rd grade. As you notice, quite often they say, oh, the children can't read in 3rd grade. I'm not saying here, but some children in some schools. But they will be failing courses when they get to middle school and high school and are most likely going to drop out. So we need to really focus on the K-12 as well as kindergarten, first grade, to make sure that they're not lagging behind, because they never will catch up. I shouldn't say never for everyone, but the majority will not. Attendance patterns predict whether you are going to go to college and whether you have persistence to be able to engage and get to college. And as well as it is truly an engagement in learning, which will give you lifelong learning, which a lot of people will go back to school to change what they want to do in life. Schools, communities, and families can improve attendance when they work together. So it's really important that the families and the parents and even other groups can help us get together and be sure that all children are going to go to school. They're saying that even though, and I even raised my hand and said, well, our district's doing really good. We have less children being absent. And they said, that's not good enough. Every child needs to be in school unless they have a really bad illness, but it can't be for other things. So then they went into why do children, or what children do we need to pay attention to? They said that poor children are 4 times more likely to be chronically absent and more likely to lack basic health and safety supports, including health care, transportation, stable housing, food, clothes, etc., that ensures a child more likely to go to school. This affects their education. And I think we do have in place the Peninsula Partnership that will help us when we find students that need to have help in those areas. Reasons for missing. What they believe why some children will not go to school, even at different ages. Health or dental issues, poor transportation, trauma in their life, no safe path to school, homelessness, child struggling academically or socially. Some children are involved in bullying, or the end of bullying, ineffective school discipline, and parents had negative school experience. So they're saying that under disengagement is one of the reasons for missing, lack of engaging and relevant insurance, no meaningful relationships with adults in school, vulnerable to being with peers outside of school, versus in school, and poor school climate. Now we all know that when you either suspend a child or tell the child to go home because they didn't wear the right outfit, or they, perhaps were falling asleep in school or whatever, you know that they like to go home because they like to hang out with people outside of school. So that's why I know what we talked about suspensions and how we really need to make sure that that's not the best thing. And that's another part of the discussion in some of this stuff. These are 2 or 3 places that I went to getting it all out. Okay, schools should invest in prevention and early intervention and specialist supports. That's when we notice that there's an issue with a student. Impact of absenteeism, their lives and their future are affected. Public safety and crime rate goes up. So what we are doing, but according to this set, okay, I wrote personally, this is what we are doing, but according to the session, we must do better. Attended the last session that I went to, the last day was interviews with 6 candidates running for governor, and clearly I think the audience there, because we were all there for education, could see which candidates were in favor of education and would be an asset to the school districts, but no comments on who we thought would be better. Equity, advocacy, and opportunity is another session I went to. Jill Wins is a member of the San Francisco Unified School District. She unfortunately lost her last election by very close voting, but she was the speaker, and she explained how they were able to get funds necessary to improve their schools and programs. I did serve with Jill for more than 12 years as a delegate to CSBA, and she also ended up being president of CSBA a couple of years ago, and still works to promote education even though she's not on school board. She said, she told everybody there that you make a plan of what you need and want, you educate your community to invest in schools, promote a local, and this was surprising to me, sales tax that is permanent. It's a tax like a sales tax, and it'll be permanent for like ever. She will be happy to share this with us and to let us know what can be done instead of going for a bond measure that you really can't use for everything, and then you can't get another bond for a while. So I thought that was really pretty interesting. That I'd like to share that with everyone. So I have some other papers that I can share, but I think I'm almost off my time. I think, am I? So can I continue with this? Huh? We're beyond? Oh, good. I'm glad you did. You would have been buzzing me. Okay. So anyway, this is not being said that we're not doing as well as we want to do, because I think we're impressed when you come back with them. But they're just saying that when somebody else said the same thing, that they were doing better, they said, no, we have to make sure that we reach every child. So that doesn't mean we're not doing good. It means maybe we'll do a little better. Okay, so that's it for me.
Thank you so much for your presentation and your update for the conference. Next item is item 15, board member comments, reports, and reflection on board meeting guidelines. I'll start with Ms.
Well, something came to my mind a while ago, and I forgot now already. I should have wrote it down.
So I focused on, which one was it?
Hold on.
We will, oh no, not that one. Sorry. Now I lost it.
They're not numbered, that's why, huh?
Hold on a second.
I always count it.
Yeah. We will communicate openly, honestly, and respectfully, ensuring that there are no hidden agendas. Yes, we did.
It's my turn. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We will work towards the future, learning from the past, and I guess we fit into all these things, so yes, we do.
We'll come to meetings prepared, mindful, attentive, and ready to contribute. I won't speak for other people. I'll give myself 95%. I didn't quite make it through all of the board policies.
And I selected, we will keep our focus on the best interests of our students. We do it every time, so.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that is the most important, really, really, truly. And I think that the first one, and like I said before, I see things that we can put together, so we're not having to say which one do we really believe it. We're doing it, so it's I think we're doing fine.
So we're gonna adjourn, but we're gonna adjourn in memory of Albert Medina Jr., who's a former personnel commissioner.
Yes.
And we can also close memory of Helen Mock as well, too, former teacher.
Oh, we already did it, we said.
Oh, that's okay.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Just in case?
Yeah. So we'll close memory of Albert Medina Jr. and Helen Mock.